as our general manager, Bob Davis, will say a few brief remarks.
Unfortunately, we need to begin today's board meeting on a somber note. On Sunday, June 16th, word was received of the passing of Sharon Corky Rainey. Corky Rainey is the mother of current Nantucket board member Rob Rainey and the wife of former Nantucket board member, the late H. Flint Rainey. Corky Rainey has left a lasting legacy in Nantucket as well as with her family. Everyone's thoughts and prayers are extended to Rob, his sisters Libby Gibson, Catherine Sale, as well as his brothers James and William, along with the rest of the extended family and friends. Our condolences are extended to the entire Rainey family, and I ask you to join me in a moment of silence in Corky's remembrance.
Good morning, everybody. I need to read these words here that I'd like to inform everyone that the Falmouth Community Television, also known as FCTV, and Sean Driscoll, the authority's communication director, are making an audio and video recording of today's meeting. If there's anyone else making an audio and video recording of today's meeting, please identify yourself by pressing and raising your hand icon on your Zoom dashboard if you are joining virtually, or if you are joining by phone, please press *9 on your keyboard, and when you are recognized, please state your name and for the record. And for anybody here present recording today's meeting, likewise, please give your name.
This is Louisa Hufstadter with the Vineyard Gazette, and I am just making an audio recording.
Sanu, MB Times, audio recording.
Well said.
Well said. Yeah. Starting off will be the approval of the May 28th meetings. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Is there any discussion? If not, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So voted.
Yes. No need for roll call votes.
There's no need for roll call votes because all members are present.
That would be.
Okay, next, a report from the Port Council. Nat, are you doing that?
I think Rob Muni is on the.
Oh,
Zoom.
Rob,
I'll break my neck here.
hi, Rob, are you with us?
Yeah, good morning. Nice to be promoted as a panelist.
I think you're muted.
No, he's not muted. It's just the sound system isn't working.
Can you hear me okay, or should I speak up? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Rob, we can't hear you. Stand by.
Can you give us a test, Rob, please?
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. I'm not showing myself on mute here.
You're not muted, yeah. Can you try again, Rob?
Yep, testing. Can you hear me?
A little
Hello?
better, but not very good.
Well, I could always defer to Nat since he's there. What would you like me to do? Testing, testing, testing.
You're faint and it's on our end, not your end.
Yeah, you're coming through loud and clear. Would you like me to proceed, or do you want to, perhaps one thought would be if Nat is there, he could give a brief update. Testing, 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 testing.
Thank you all. Sorry, Rob. So at our meeting on the 4th of June, Mr. Munson provided us a status update of the Aquinnah and the Barnstable conversions. And it's I just want to say, he does a really good job with that. The newest estimate for the completion is projected by July 15th, hopefully, and then the Aquinnah will be following up probably 3 to 4 weeks later. Mr. Mulcahy then provided an update on the Woods Hole Terminal reconstruction project. The geothermal well system was discussed, and staging area as well for the summer season. Mr. Coleman provided us with a status update on the website and some of the testing planned for September. Mr. Munson then provided us some update on the dredging project in Fairhaven. And then Allison Fletcher provided us with an update on the summer schedule changes. Mr. Rozum provided us with our business summary for April, and the cost of service analysis for 2023 was discussed at length. And then the additional information was requested. The Port Council deferred the review of the general manager performance review for our side of it till next month. And that's it. Anyone have any questions?
Any questions?
Read the minutes. The minutes are pretty accurate as well for everything that was discussed. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nat.
Thanks, Nat.
Moving forward, the general manager's report.
Yeah, thank you, Rob, for trying. It's on our end. All right, gonna mention, I think Brooke Moore had been in the room, but she left. So first up, we have an update on the conversion of the Aquinnah and Barnstable. So Mark has decided that it was gonna be cooler here than it was in Mobile, Alabama. So he's here to present.
Actually, as of yesterday, it really wasn't true. It was a lot cooler in Mobile yesterday than it was in Massachusetts as a whole. Anyways, thank you, everyone. So we continuing the project of the Aquinnah and Barnstable conversion at Alabama Shipyard. And we're getting very close on the MV Barnstable as far as our coating systems go. There's a picture of the vessel as it sits pier side. Next. We have completed all the coatings. This is the back of the house superstructure, and that's complete. Next. Just some more further photos. We got some deck cleanup to do, but it's coming really nice. Next. So this is a picture of the, getting near the completion. We're near complete in the, new crew lounge. We just got some cabinets and the stove and dishwasher going in and the ceiling, and that'll be complete. Next. This is a new, auto start panel that we've put in on both of the vessels in the event of a blackout situation. Generators will come on in parallel phase to the board automatically. Next. And this is pretty much complete at this point. That we did a stack extension on this is the main engine and various auxiliary generator piping systems, exhaust systems. Next. Okay, so the upcoming milestones, we've completed up the power up of the vessel. All the electrical is hooked back up. We're doing engine starts this coming week. At that point, at the end of June, the mechanical and accommodations are going to be complete. And then what we'll have what's called is the incline stability test with the removal of the 24-foot mid-body and relevant equipment that was removed from the vessel. They put various weights and measure inclination and to develop the stability letter for the vessel. And that's at the end of the month. That'll be followed by dock trials once we're finished sea trials, then we'll be ready to head north. Okay, so right now we have our contract is 13.7 million. We have 1.73 million in change orders for both of the vessels. We're on track financially on the project. Any questions?
No questions? Thank you very much.
Okay,
Mark.
thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Moving forward.
All right, so the next item, staff just wanted to provide a brief update on the status of the Fairhaven vessel maintenance dredge project that's ongoing. And this is being done in conjunction with dredging in the greater New Bedford Harbor area. So we were able to piggyback onto this project.
This is
Mark.
a slide how they're dredging out and putting the spoils on the barge. Next slide. So as of the south side of the pier is complete, we've removed approximately 5,933 cubic yards of spoils, and we're getting ready to commence the removal. It's a much smaller amount on the north slip of the facility, 742 cubic yards. So everything has gone to spec. We really appreciate that ability to get this done during our off season, as we have very limited vessels there at this point. Any questions?
Question, Mark. We're piggybacking on a bigger project,
As far as
dredging.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Yes. Yes.
Are we piggybacking on a bigger project?
Oh, yes, sir. We're just one aspect. They've already completed Fairhaven Shipyard. They're moving down. I believe at the Port Council meeting, they put on a tremendous presentation of the overall, how they're storing the spoils, and yeah, we're one small part of the project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Moving on.
But just background for that facility, when we rebuilt the facility in the early 2000s, we did the dredging, and this is continuation maintenance dredging for our portion of the project. All right, so next item, as you recall at last month's meeting, the members wanted to defer the discussions of any potential changes to the authority's advertising program to this month. So again, the guidelines that we've been using were approved by the members back in November of 2007. The guidelines has since been amended in 2008 and again in 2019. But just as a refresher for those that weren't at the meeting last time, that the Advertising program is stated purpose is the guidelines is to establish a reasonable, uniform, and viewpoint neutral standard for the display of advertising on or in all the authority's facilities. So that includes the vessels, the terminals, and the buses. The goal and objects of the advertising program, as stated in its guidelines, are the following: to preserve the facilities for the purpose for which they are designed and dedicated, maximize revenue generated by advertising, to maintain a safe and orderly operation of the facilities, maintain a safe and welcoming environment for all those who utilize or are employed by the facilities, including minors, and to avoid unauthorized identification of the authority or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with advertisements or viewpoints of the advertisers. So each year, the authority realizes approximately $100,000 in revenue from the advertising program, although that varies greatly from year to year. The advertising program that we have mirrors programs offered by other public transit agencies, including the MBTA, Washington State Ferries, and New York City Ferries.
Okay, so any discussion? Please, we had plenty before.
If I may. I still have the concern that I raised at the prior meeting in terms of the impact of essentially the lobster you're eating, the PETA ads regarding lobstering. Lobstering is a big part of New England. It's a big part of our local economies. I think under these guidelines, which you've just referred to, and thank you for all the information that you sent, there doesn't seem to be a way to restrict that kind of advertising, although portions of our economy depend on lobstering for lobster fishing, depend on lobster in our restaurants, particularly in this season. And it's a concern of mine. And I think Mr. Jeffries said it pretty well, is we either have advertising or we have no advertising, because when you start to pick and choose, even with these guidelines, you're open to litigation or certainly controversy. So I appreciate this, and I find the $100,000, given the size of our operation, not to be significant. Certainly welcome. And I would urge the board to again consider, do we want to do advertising that may wind up being problematic for members of our community, particularly as we deal with increasingly divergent opinions, not only in our operation, but throughout our nation. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Question before I have a comment, I guess, and I think this probably goes to Sean. What are current advertising contracts? When do they expire? Or the latest one?
Well, my computer decided to have a nervous breakdown, so I'm operating off of memory, but most of the advertising we have now expires in late October. Some of them are on 3-month contracts, some of them are 6. Some of the brochures go until next year. So there are a small number, but some contracts that are good through the start of summer in 2025. We have had continued interest since our last meeting. It's mid-June now and people are coming in late to the party, but they are still just last week we had, we had interest in someone looking to place an ad. So there is still interest in it. But most of them right now are good, at least through the summer, if not to say November 1.
And I presume we've somewhat destabilized interest in our advertising over the last 2 meetings.
It has gotten it's been much more of a normal month since last we spoke.
So, and under the current agreements that we have, what are the provisions? Is there any provision to refund, to stop the advertising, or and this probably also goes to Terrence. Or do we have the contracts we have until the end of those contract dates?
Well, I would certainly talk to my lawyer about that, but if the contract doesn't really envision a stop of the program in midstream, so just as a matter of good business practice, if we were to stop it now, I would issue prorated refunds to anybody who didn't get the extent of their contract.
So we're either looking at refunding, or if we decide to go with no advertising, refunding, or having advertisements run maybe one even as late as June 2025.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay, so we could have one single advertiser advertising May 2025 if the board decides.
It would be a handful, and I think they would all be brochures, but yes, there would be some people. We didn't end any contracts. There would be some advertisement through the start of next season.
So, once again, I think this is just a binary decision for the board. Do we want invite advertising under this policy and have the concerns that Mr. Malkin raises for $100,000 to supplement our operating expense? Or do we move forward with ceasing advertising after the end of these contracts? And while I would second a motion for discussion, I won't make that motion.
Thank you for your parliamentary procedure. Just a couple of things. I read this over this morning, your initial page, which Bob had just quoted a part of it, but what was of interest is letter E is to avoid the unauthorized identification of the authority or the Commonwealth of Massachusetts with advertisements or viewpoints of the advertisers. This is obviously a viewpoint. It also infects a whole industry. I think it runs head on head of a very strong and viable industry, being the lobster industry in particular. And I think, as a quasi-government agency, I think we have a responsibility to, forego advertisements that come head on head, with other industries and things, or personalities, or the whole long list that's in here that criteria by which we grant the ads. The way I look at this, this is done, correct? They're up and running. So I think right now, we're duty pressed to do it. I would like to see some verbiage put into this that maybe, strengthens letter E, so that we can comfortably say, I'm sorry, this is not the type of ad that we want on the Steamship Authority. It affects too many different, people and beliefs and thoughts. Their cry for the whales is understandable, but not at the expense of the lobster industry. They've got to be able to somehow get along together with breakable parts or whatever it is. But it's if you go further north in Massachusetts and stuff, and even in Massachusetts, it's worth millions of dollars in the lives of a family. And it's not worth, that type of money to the people who put this as it's a belief. I don't disagree with their belief. I do think that it's an ad that we shouldn't take in the future. And you said, I think last meeting I asked you is how many ads do we get like this? And I think you said during your duration, you never had any, controversial ads that you had to sit there and go to the board or to the manager and say, should we accept that? So if we react, let it go, see how it goes in the future. And if we need to react in the future becomes, more and more prevalent, that we address it. But I think, it would be premature not knowing what the future, will bring. So just a few thoughts. Yes, Peter.
If I may, once again, I mean, I'm very concerned about the board looking at the content of advertisers. As I said, I think this is a binary decision. Do we accept advertising and we have management follow the policy that's been approved by the board? Or do we change our policy that we no longer advertise? Talking about a specific advertisement or advertiser, I think runs afoul of the 14th Amendment's First Amendment protections that we need to follow. So, you know, if we're going to start talking about ads and what strengthening policy E, I actually would be, instead of seconding a motion, I'd actually rather move forward with making a motion that we no longer advertise after these current contracts, because I don't want the board to be in a position of monitoring the content and reacting to content of advertisers. I think that'll just put us all in a precarious position individually as well as the board. And I can tell you, if someone filed a First Amendment suit against us, we're litigating that out is going to eat away any amount of profit that we've made. So, you know, either the type of ad that some people have found offensive or contrary to industry around here, if we don't want that ad to be run, then we can't have ads run.
Sure.
Thank you. I had suggested at our last meeting, something that has worked in a number of towns of the Commonwealth, which is restricting flags to be flown on town property to either flags of the Commonwealth or of the nation or of the town itself. And I was wondering if you could take that same approach here and say the only advertisements that we would take would be from the federal government, the Commonwealth, or the towns that we serve. And that would be a straight across the board policy, would still get us advertising, still support the communities. But I agree with you. There's a big First Amendment issue here. And I know some organizations like the one that we're dealing with now would love to have a national spotlight on this issue. So perhaps the federal, state, local advertising or advertising for the steamship itself would be something that would stand the test of courts, perhaps. And I'd make, go ahead.
Yeah, just to vet this out here, a few ideas and thoughts, but you know, first of all, I agree with, you know, advertising for ourselves, that's fine. Nonprofits usually are an accepted thing, even though that may be a nonprofit we're dealing with.
Yeah.
But I think to run scared with one ad that we've had, perhaps ever had, and if nobody has brought it up before, why are we shaking in our boots? If it becomes a problem and it you know, continues to run, then you address it. I mean, there's ways. I mean, if we have our own ads up and things, and somebody comes in and this is what I want to put up here, you know, I'm sorry, this board is full. I mean, this is, and that's just kind of a warlike situation. But I'm not ready to just draw a line and say, well, no more advertising because one advertiser, you know, put something we didn't like. And if it went to court, we'd lose. No question.
I guess my response to that,
Huh?
Mr. Chairman, is, again, I agree with you that what we have is what we currently have. My concern is what's coming down the road, and I would like us to be prepared should an organization such as the one we're talking about now come to the Steamship Authority with a proposal for next year's advertising. And I'd like to have something in place where we can then say to them, no, this is why we can't take it. That's my view.
Any other thoughts?
I guess, Mr. Melvin, are you, making a motion that we have management draft, not to put words in your mouth, but draft a proposed policy to reflect just a federal, state, municipal government advertising policy so that we can review it? Not that we're looking to change it, but we have that in our back pocket to take a look at. And its legality and its potential financial earnings or adverse impact.
I'm happy to make that as a motion, certainly.
Okay, that's made. Is there a second?
I guess I'll second it since I
Okay,
verbalized it.
And
Mr.
we have
Malcolm.
further discussion here. Thank you. So I am not necessarily attuned to that. I'm attuned to taking and strengthening what I see in letter E and make it, more viable. And when it comes to a time, if we need to do it, we can do it at that time. We can just,
Then I'd like to amend my motion to ask for two drafts. One draft where the authority would take advertising on its property and its vessels for federal, state, or community or steamship advertising. That'd be one draft. And the other draft would be to strengthen the language as you're proposing, Mr. Chairman. And we could look at both of those things and make a decision.
I would surely like to discuss this again into those drafts.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been moved, second amended, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so voted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always a sticky wicket somewhere.
I've been called worse than that.
No, not you. Moving on, Barb.
All right, staff is requesting that the members approve the proposed 2024 wage and salary program for the authority's non-union employees. And it consists of approximately 100 employees. In addition, staff is also recommending that the members approve a proposed option of allowing the non-union members to buy back 1 week of vacation. The wage and salary administration adjustments for a non-union group typically become effective July 1st of each year, contingent upon the outcome of their performance reviews as well. To ensure competitiveness, we annually review market data from Willis Towers Watson, who is a prominent global advisory firm specializing in employee compensation and benefits. Willis Towers Watson did note in their analysis this year that the survey was conducted at the end of 2023. But the report further noted that since 2022, salary increase rates have continued to rise as a result of inflationary pressures, tighter labor markets, and retention concerns. So staff then broadened its scope beyond the Willis Towers Watson analysis to consider salary research conducted within the local municipalities and organizations in the area. Organizations that did respond to our outreach reported planned cost of living adjustments or COLAs in the 2 to 3% range, combined with a 2 to 3% step or merit adjustment. So most of them are reporting a combined 4.5 to 5% increase. Coupled with our commitment to attract and retain top talent, this year the staff is proposing that a 5% increase be effective July 1st, 2024. Then the second piece of this is that the authority grants non-union employees, based on the number of years of service, a maximum of the 4 weeks of vacation time annually. That's pretty much the standard across the authority for all units. However, the situations may arise where an employee is unable to utilize their allotted vacation time or opts to carry over accrued time for various reasons. Similar to the provisions of some of the collective bargaining agreements, staff is recommending that the eligible non-union employees with 4 weeks of vacation or more have the option to forego their 4th week of vacation and instead receive vacation pay in exchange. So the recommendation is that the members vote to approve the 2024 non-union performance wage and salary increase program as proposed. And additionally, the members vote to approve the request to permit employees to forego their 4th week of vacation time and receive vacation pay in lieu of thereof.
Any questions, Jim?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have three questions. Question one, where, what is the grouping that was studied from Willis Towers Watson? Was it southeastern Massachusetts? Was it Massachusetts? What industries were they looking at? You know, how relevant are they to the high cost area that our employees live in? So that's one question. The second concern I have is that, as is quite well known, we're in the middle of negotiations with our unionized employees. And one of the issues that I've come to notice from talking with staff throughout the organization is there's a bit of a union versus non-union issue. We also have a marine versus shoreside cultural issues, and I want to do everything we can as an organization to create an environment where people are happy, comfortable, and pleased to work here. So the concern I have is setting something in stone now for our non-union people when we haven't finished with what we're doing with our union people. So that's my second concern. And I think I've forgotten what my third concern was. So that's the issue I have is equity across the organization, and what are we using to compare salaries across the organization with? Are we using like to like or not?
Okay, so your first item, question was about what the survey curtails. So they're a national firm. So they're using it across it's not weighted in particular for particular regions. It's just whatever respondents they're able to get to their survey. So I don't think there's, they did point out that obviously different markets have different, pressures, whether it's retention, recruitment, housing, things like that. So I don't have a exact number of how many were included in their presentation, but this is something that we typically have used, and I think they try to look at it as kind of a on the global U.S. market. This is what they're seeing and forecasting. But again, they're putting this together in the fall of one year for the next year, and obviously how close they are. I think you go back and look at the 2022 projections versus the 2023 actual. I think they were a little light on what they originally had proposed. I think they were somewhere in the area of 3.7%, and they came in at 3.9% overall. So, or 4.4 actually. Sorry. Regarding the setting precedents, that we handle each group. We value all of our employees, whether they're shoreside or on the water or reservations, maintenance. They're all valuable to the organization. In terms of setting precedents, if that was the case back in 2020, when all the collective bargaining agreements all got their required wage increases, and the non-union group took a zero for the year because of the situation that we're in. So this is something that obviously, if we can, once we, I anticipate that we will be reaching a point that we are able to settle all the labor agreements. We've done so in the past, and I have full faith that we'll be able to get there in terms of it. And at that point, you could go back and look at what was done for the non-union group and whether there needs to be any adjustment at that point. But the non-union group, it's not just the administration staff, it's the terminal managers, agents, parking lot managers, supervisors, and things like that. So it's throughout the organization that we have. So.
Now, is this? Go. No, go ahead, please.
Oh, I share Mr. Malcolm's concerns. One, as to the data we're using, I'd like us to see what else is out there in the market, especially from a regional standpoint. because the labor market in Mobile, Alabama is going to be very different from the labor market on the Cape and Islands. And we don't have to explain to anyone here the cost of living and as it's been increasing. And equally, I share our concern about that, his concern about the equity across all our staff. We have these 5 bargaining units that we need to make happy, to recruit and retain those people. I equally don't want to lose our mid-level and lower level managers because we're not showing our appreciation enough as it may be shown in collective bargaining agreements. I do have a solution. Rather than having to come back to the board, I would rather see us look at approving what you've put forth now, but with an amendment that any increase would be that we would increase the wages of our non-union staff by the weighted average of the 5 collective bargaining agreement increases once those are all reached, if they're in fact higher. I don't want to undermine anyone's bargaining position, but I think reading the newspaper, I can presume they will be. So.
If I make clear, in the past, we've worked with the associated wage data, and we are, I currently have requested to, they now probably sell for overall wage data analysis. So that would be important.
When do you think you'd have that? Thank you.
I mean, I understand, but we're in a position now where traditionally the non-union employees would see a potential wage increase and delaying it because we don't have bargaining agreements, and the new bargaining agreements in place is not necessarily fair. But I also don't want to be in a position where those wages, the wage increase that's being asked for now is inadequate based upon potential outcomes of the 5 bargaining agreements that we're in negotiation for. So I'm trying to find a way that we don't have to go back to the board, or that our non-union staff can feel comfortable that we value them as equally as our bargaining employees, because we only run the steamship if we have vessels and staff. Those should be our 2 priorities, funding.
Just one question here. Has this been done by agreement?
Typically, this is a agenda item every June for the non-union, with the exception of 2020.
Do you have a pulse or a feel of where the non-union people, they're not organized, so you don't know? But
no, but again, I think there's, the built-in expectation with the group is that this is something that typically takes place in 1st of July, and again, as I said before, all of the employees are valued in what they're bringing. With all, I know Janice is, we've worked with Associated Industries in Massachusetts, but a lot of times there's not a good direct correlation between some of the data that they end up having versus the data that we, the data that we know regarding our own employees. So it's not necessarily, every position, there's not many terminal managers positions out there in Associated Industries, for instance. So.
Peter, you have the assumption that by the time we're through with the negotiation of the other unions and stuff, that there may be, to equalize it, there may be skin left on the table that we're not, addressing or have the opportunity to equalize them. Is that where you're?
Yeah, I just want to be that if I would make a motion that we approve that it's here with, and additionally, that we would improve a further increase based upon the weighted average of any increase above the 5% from the collective bargaining agreements, if that's what's reached. So if we reach agreement at the percentage today with our unions, and I'm not saying we will or won't, I'm not at the negotiating table, then nothing would happen. But if there is an increase of more than 5% weighted average amongst the 5 bargaining agreements that we're in negotiations for, that we would raise the salaries of our non-union staff just automatically based upon that increase on the weighted average. So it's not an additional. So if it was 8%, it's not getting an additional 8%. If it's the weighted average is 8% amongst all 5 contracts, that would be an additional 3% for those non-union employees, so that we have a parity across the board of valuing our employees with the same wage increase. And not pitting our non-union employees versus our union employees, at least in terms of value.
I can go on. Is there a second to that? I'll second that. It's been seconded.
There's discussion.
Yes.
I think there's one thing, and I may be wrong about this. Am I correct? And this, my first year was, I came in with COVID, it was 2020. I believe we did not give a non-union increase that year. So there is 1 year that our non-union staff has not made up an increase. Is that correct?
That's correct. In 2020, there was no increase for the non-union.
Right. So they're 1 year behind anyway. But, and that, that again, this goes back to the original issue I raised about treating people fairly. And again, recruiting, retaining, and making this a place where people want to stay and work and start young and stay through the whole time. That's what we want. Hence my question. I don't know how that fits in with the motion that's on the table, however.
If I may, Mr. Chair. So while there was no increase that year, the way that the non-union, there's a matrix that we use in terms of where an individual is in their grade, their position, and their review. So some of those positions, there may have been some, opportunities since 2020 to a few of these positions to bring them back into line, but not totally. It didn't totally satisfy that issue.
And the reason for my question was I hear from the people with whom I speak on the ground, they do not feel that it's been satisfactorily dealt with. However, if the sense of the board is that the motion that Peter made is going to deal with this issue, and we are also cognizant of looking at the right subset of employees to compare ourselves to going forward, then I'm comfortable.
Yeah, I totally agree. So we're using this as our base. And then we'll wait and see what, our negotiations, and then we'll take this up again.
The motion, the way I made it, is that we wouldn't have to take it up again. It would just automatically happen if there was a greater increase for the bargaining unit employees. It would just automatically go to the non-union employees, the difference in percentage.
Well, I guess that can work. I really don't necessarily like something that's automatic, because I usually withhold an opinion until I have to make a decision. So, but I will go along with your motion.
I just want I just want our employees to feel secure and taken care of by this board.
I think you've made it. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So voted, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, where are we now?
So next we turn it over to Treasurer Rozum. So he can provide us with what's been going on in the month of April, and then
Mark, do you have anything for us this month?
Pardon?
I said, do you have anything for us this month?
I got a quick business summary to give you an update where we stand financially and the cost of service. and I'll
I'm
keep it real
being
brief.
sarcastic, you got 1 inch of paperwork.
Yeah, so the business summary for the month of April. Quick, Sean, pull this up. Okay, so for passengers carried on both routes, we're down 2.9% or just under 6,000 passengers. Year to date, we're up 2.2% or just over 12,000 passengers. And all these are one-way statistics. Passenger vehicles carried, both routes were down a total of 9.4%. We continue to see a decline in the standard automobiles on both routes. Freight vehicles for the month of April were up for both routes, an average of 5.3% or just under 450 vehicles. Year to date, we're virtually flat or up 0.2%. Cars parked, we're up 3.3% for both routes combined. The Vineyard route was up while the Nantucket route was down about 123 vehicles for the month. Trip summary, we had on the Vineyard route, 5 trips canceled for mechanical, 43 for weather, 4 for crewing purposes. On the Nantucket route, we had 19 for mechanical, 44 for weather, and 4 for crewing. In comparison, last year for the same month, for those 3 categories combined, we had 8 trips canceled on both routes. And you can see that in the traffic statistics that I just mentioned earlier. Financial snapshot for the month of April, operating revenues were down $306,000, which we'll talk about momentarily. Operating expenses were up $360,000, and most of that was timing. Putting that all together, we had a net operating loss for the month of just under $832,000. Revenues, the big category here is the automobile revenue is down $443,000. That's a direct correlation of the standard fare autos being down. Operating expenses, you see the maintenance expense was up about $95,000. That was timing. And general expenses up $330,000. That was some timing with some invoicing from some of the training costs, as well as some consulting costs for the IT project and the Raftilis for the strategic plan. Snapshot of May, we were down passengers on total for both routes combined, 3.2% or 8,800 passengers. Year to date, we're still up passengers for both routes combined. And for vehicles on the Vineyard route, we're down 4.7% for all vehicles combined for the month of May, and the Nantucket route was down 650 vehicles or 5.5%. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding the financial snapshot that's in the package.
Is there any way to tell how much of the passenger being down is a result of our cancellations due to mechanical issues or crew shortages?
The hard part to answer the question is how many of those passengers went on another trip? You know, where the Aquinnah is, we'd have to historically look back and take a percentage of how many of those traveled on the 5th trip versus the 5th trip 2 years ago, and as a percentage of the overall capacity. But on the Vineyard run, for example, if the freight boat canceled, assume they would jump on the next trip if they were already traveling that day. So that's really a hard question to quantify. We can give you statistics on overall capacity for vehicle capacity. That's much easier to quantify, but the passengers, we don't know if they traveled or not with us.
I guess, you know, and I can understand that. It would be great if we could capture that metric in some way, or at least extrapolate that. Just to see, is this a change in terms of how the traveling public gets to the islands, or how many travelers are coming to the islands, versus is this a change based upon our inability to meet demand?
So what I can do is look at the 2 years ago traffic statistics and see what we're carrying per trip, and then compare it to now and see if we see any patterns that would be on short term off the top of my head, the best way to look at that.
That might be helpful to look at. Thank you.
If I may, the other thing in April, a lot of those weather cancellations tended to be on the weekends, you know, or going into a weekend. So
It was a very windy, wet April.
yes.
And I have a question about May.
Sure.
Is there anything that you would draw from the drop of the Vineyard and Nantucket routes? This is
We're
a more
seeing-
general question than Peter's.
Yep, so the big trend we're seeing, and I should have looked at it before we came here, and I meant to, is that we're seeing a decline in the standard fare autos. You know, we had a before COVID, then we had a peak during COVID where people's travel plans changed. Now we're seeing the decline. And last year, I think it was about June, we came to the same percentage of standard and autos that we had prior COVID. So that's what the area that I'm looking at is the concern is that the quantity of standard vehicles declining because as you'll see in the cost of service that we're about to present, the amount the standard fares auto pay is significantly more. So it's both traffic and revenue wise, it affects us.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, moving on.
So we have the annual cost of service review, and I'll be real brief. I won't go over all 200 pages of this. We basically summed it up in 2 pages for each route. It's almost like looking at a tax form. So item C in red, that's what our total cost increase from last year to this year. Column item E in red is the amount per trip, increased cost per trip we have. So we're about $302 per trip. The number of vehicles we carried, the passenger vehicles were down about 7,300, while the number of trucks were up 2,100. So that's in G&H.
And this is on the Vineyard route.
Yeah, excuse me, sorry, the Vineyard route. Okay, so then net all this together in column row K, we have the total capacity or car equivalent units, as Nat Lowell likes to refer to, is down 840. And the total capacity that we had available to run last year was up 7,100 spaces. Our occupancy rate for the per vessel was down 0.8%. We went from 81.8% to 81%. And keep in mind that percentages, we do have deadhead trips. For example, on Memorial Day, everyone's coming to the island, but not a lot of people leaving the island. So virtually we'll never be at, we shouldn't be at 100% based on travel patterns. Okay, so then we have the category. So if we scroll down a little bit lower, Sean, when we add up the passenger to vehicle revenue, our revenue on the route of the Vineyard route was up 3.4 million last year. So what we do is we look at the cost and we look at the revenue, we look at the trips and the amount of vehicles we carry. So when we get to section V, that tells us the cost of what it costs us to carry each type of vehicle, whether it's a 1-space car, a 2-space truck, 4-space truck, or 5-space truck. So we get how much it costs us to carry a vehicle. And then we look at what the revenue per vehicle is, and then look at the cost of vehicle. So in X, we have the standard fare auto on the Vineyard route accounts for 133% of the cost, while the excursion fare is at 29.4%. And then we go to section Z, we see the average truck on the Nantucket route, on the Vineyard route, excuse me, covers 105.9% of their cost. So as far as analysis goes, we go to granular to see what each car space on a deck of the vessel costs us to service and how much revenue we get from that space. So we did the same analysis on the Nantucket run, on the excluding the IANO. So we had cost increase about $2.2 million in section C. The number of vehicles we carried for passenger vehicles were in section G were up 602. The trucks were virtually flat or up 39. We had the number of spaces that we actually carried in the boats were up 883. We offered more spaces on the boat by 2,600 spaces, which is column M, our total capacity. And our occupancy rate, similar to the Vineyard, this one was down 0.6% on this run. So we're at 85.3 versus 84.7, or about 4% higher occupancy rate than on the Vineyard route. Revenues on the Nantucket route were up $2.5 million for all categories combined. So then if we go down, we can scroll down a little bit further, Sean. So the estimated cost to carry a vehicle on the Nantucket route for a car is just under $177, where a 4-space semi is $706. So on the Nantucket route, the standard fare auto kit covers 147% of that cost, while an excursion car is at 33.7. And if we go down, the average freight truck on the Nantucket route covers 85% of their cost. So each island historically in the past has chosen different ways to cover their operating costs. Because each, well, even though we're conglomerate, we operate independently when we judge the, look at how the fare increases come. So on the Vineyard route, it's more geared toward this freight, and on the Nantucket run, the price is more geared to the standard fare autos. So we use this as part of our budget presentation to look at trends, look at where costs should be assigned, you know, who's paying their share. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Any questions? Yeah. Yes, go ahead. Yes, sure.
Mark, could you go to the microphone, please?
Thank you.
Is that better?
Yes.
I can't follow all those numbers. I'm not smart enough. But I took my car off island from Nantucket last week, and the first reservation I could get back is August 18th. And I realize this is summertime, but I think that numbers may mask some of the problems. There has been huge growth in construction, in trucking to the island, and they have to be using more space on the boats because you can't get a standard car across. I'm speaking particularly to Nantucket. And my concern is that you have a huge impact on the island's economy because if rentals are down, part of the reason I have to believe is people can't get a car across. And most people who rent a home bring a car. And I think it's really important that the Steamship Authority is part of a bigger picture than itself to discuss what is happening with freight and regular car transportation, because it impacts the island tremendously. I don't see much coordination or discussion, and I'm concerned because I don't think it should take 7 weeks to get a car across. And I think there's a problem with the standard cars.
Thank you, Mark. Usually I wouldn't have taken that comment. I thought you were going to ask a question about his presentation. Excuse me? Yeah. Anyways, you got your point across. We totally understand it, believe me. Moving on. Any more questions for the report? None? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gotcha. All right.
All right. So next item we have is, we're hoping that we'd be having a request for authorization to award contract 19-2022-C, which would be for the dry docking conversion services of the MBI Monomoy. However, as we've continued negotiations with the shipyard and looking at various aspects of this project, we don't have a final number that we're comfortable with presenting at this time. We'll probably need to indulge the board and you know, having a separate meeting regarding this topic. But you know, some of the items that we're working on is that on the Monomoy, unlike the Barnstable and Aquinnah, there's a fuller overhaul of the main engines that's going to need to be done. And as we're doing that, Mark A, Mark H, have both come back saying that there's an opportunity to convert the Caterpillar engines on that vessel to a Tier 4 engine, or modify them to become Tier 4. So we're looking at what those costs are and a timeline on that as well, because we'd have to be doing the overhaul anyway, so it may make sense to be able to do them all at the same time if we're able to work it out schedule-wise. So but we do have there's some time restrictions with the yard in terms of being able to put one of these vessels up, a vessel up on the dock. So we'll want to get back once we square those items away.
Fine enough.
May I?
Yeah.
Bob, I think it might help the people who are listening in to understand what this means in terms of Tier 4, because I think that's important for the public to know what you're talking about and why.
All right. So the Barnstable, Aquinnah, and Monomoy, when they were built, they were Tier 2 compliant. It's an EPA designation in terms of emissions and the particles that an engine will have as a byproduct. By comparison, the Catema, Gayhead, and Sankaty are effectively a tier 0 because it was before any of the tier requirements were established. So by definition, these boats are going to be better in terms of emissions. There was a tier 3 designation that was made by the EPA. So for instance, the MV Woods Hole is a tier 3 vessel. But following the construction of the Woods Hole, the EPA is now at any new build requires a tier 4 for emissions. So even more stringent emission standards. There's an after exhaust treatment or exhaust treatment that needs to take place. And I'm not an engineer, so Mark could feel free to jump in on this, but there'll be a urea treatment. There's also a CAD cell type thing that will be to collect the particle, the particulate matter. So, I think it's I'm encouraged that we're able to do this for the Monomoy, and the plan then would be as the Barnstable and Aquinnah go into their normal repair dry dock periods that we'd schedule that same thing to keep them all the same, but also to help in our reducing our carbon footprint.
Thank you.
Put the package out.
Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
No, they'll raise the level.
When we put the sorry,
Now you're on.
when we put the package out, I'll have the numbers, Mark and I will have the numbers for you as far as the percentage decrease in NOx and CO2 from going from where we are now with tier 0 to tier 4 engines, and what that means for that vessel and for future vessels when we do overhauls. So when looking at the Barnstable and the Aquinnah in future years, when we go in for when we overhaul the engines, we could also do that upgrade to tier 4.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. That's really good news, actually. And a tier 4, by the way, is almost as pure electric. That's how good a tier 4 is. And if we can get all our vessels to at least a tier 4 or electric, we're going to cut the carbon footprint down to a fraction. So for the steamship vessels. Okay, moving on.
All right, so next item we have is, staff is requesting that the members authorize the general manager to market the MV Gayhead and MV Catema for sale. In June 1986, the Steamship Authority completed the purchase of the MV Pro Navigator from Pro Offshore Vessels for a total purchase price of $557,000. The MV Pro Navigator was originally built in 1982, so it was about 4 years old at the time, and it serviced the Gulf oil field. Following the acquisition, the Steamship Authority renamed the Pro Navigator the MV Catema. Then in February of '87, the Steamship Authority completed the purchase of the MV Golden Mist from Golden Gulf Offshore Inc. for a total contract price of $600,000. The Golden Mist was built in 1981. Again, to service the Gulf fields. The Golden Mist was later renamed the MV Gayhead. So since the initial acquisition of these two vessels, they've been modified for service, including being lengthened and widened. And through the end of 2023, these two vessels combined have operated in excess of 133,000 trips, totaling over 2 million miles. I anticipate by the end of the year will be around 2.1 million nautical miles that these vessels will have transited. We did do a fleet condition report with Marine Safety Consultants back in 2022. They identified these two vessels as having the shortest useful life for the Steamship Authority. They're still a good vessel, but for our purposes, we're looking to replace. We were replacing them. And because of that, we ended up purchasing the 3 OSVs that we have. Since the Barnstable and Aquinnah are nearing completion at Alabama Shipyard and will be heading north shortly, staff is seeking to begin efforts to start to market the Gayhead and Katama as available for sale. Staff will be seeking proposals from prospective buyers and intends to advertise as such in various maritime publications. The Marine Safety Consultants was recently engaged to complete a market evaluation of these vessels, and staff is reviewing the equipment that's on board to see if there's anything there that we would actually want to take off to have in our inventory. And at that point, we'd be looking at determining a minimum asking price. So the Port Council at their May 7th meeting voted to recommend that the members authorize the marketing of these two vessels for sale. So staff is recommending that the members authorize the general manager to market the MV Gayhead and Katama for sale.
Okay, any questions? Yes, Peter.
Probably a question for Mark or Mark. When are both these vessels next scheduled to go in for dry dock or in Coast Guard inspection?
We operate on a 2-year cycle, so having the vessel, the Barnstable arriving in July, that will also beginning the new beginning of the dry dock schedule. So every 2 years, we would be going back into dry dock in accordance to steamship policy. So we're probably looking at a 2026 docking of the Barnstable following year 2027.
I'm sorry, I meant for the other two. I'm sorry for the Katama and the Gayhead. So I'm just trying to figure out.
Oh, excuse me. So
Yeah, just in terms of costs moving forward and sale, and if we dry dock the vessel, how much would we lose or not even seeing a profit if we have to get them re-inspected before sale?
I think we'd be looking at $1 million for the dry docking of the Gayhead. Next, that would be for an offsetting it this year, and going forward, that would be the same for the Katama and the Sankety, obviously.
So I guess to follow up, if we authorize to put it out to the market now, we should be able to avoid having to dry dock these vessels before, presuming they sell, but to dry dock these vessels, we could forego doing that?
That is correct. The Gayhead dry dock is due at the end of August, and we have plus or minus 3 months to dock that vessel and keep it in certification. So that would be the timetable that we need to. Plus, we have limited parking spaces, we'll call it that, at our Fairhaven facility when they're done. So, and we also have repair projects, so that has to be taken into account as well.
It sounds to me like we should move on this quickly then.
Thank you.
One small correction. Actually, the Katama was the one that's scheduled for this year for a dry docking, and we were putting that one off until we were asking that one to be deferred.
Of course, the closer we get to the need for the dry docking, that's going to be reflected in the price that we get as well.
Yes.
So I'd make a motion to move that we approve the sale of both vessels.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Well, just one comment, for the sale of a used vessel like this, or the Shumanchi, or whatever, you can get just about as much money for a Boston whaler as you can get for the resale of these here, so don't be surprised when the bids come in. So, any further question?
Boston whalers are expensive these days.
It is. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So voted. Thank you.
Just to set expectations, I noted that in past week, one of the Staten Island ferries was sold, that they had retired. They had been asking $155,000 and it sold for $100,000. So, and it's 320 feet long, and
It beats a $1 million dry dock again.
Yeah. It's basically scrap. Moving on. All right. Are we going? Do we have any new or old business? Peter?
Some old business. First, once again, asking where we are on the status of the crewing plan for the proposed 2025 schedule that I've been asking since April. The breakdown of, what crew would be required to run the proposed schedule, what crew we have that meets those qualifications, and then also what crew would we need to run that proposed schedule if we went to a quad instead of a triple crew. Any idea when we'll get that information?
So, we're working on that over the weekend. I think there was some items that should have been added to the diligent folder, there regarding that, but, part of that had been, we included, for the licensed deck officers, for instance, which vessels that they have recency on or are qualified to operate, whether they're a captain or a pilot or a maid, or whether, how many people were studying. Just as right now, the schedule that we're operating, right at the moment, it requires 21 deck officers, per position for captains, and then for pilots. We allow, there's, as per the contract, there's 2 positions for vacation time during that time period. So we have, I think it was 28, actually it was 23 positions, and then two positions for vacation. So that makes it 25 positions. Our roster at the moment has 28 individuals that have qualified as captains. So there's not a lot of play there. We do have a couple other candidates that are in the process of getting their certifications to become captains, as well as a number of individuals that are working on their qualifications to become pilots. Also included in that information was a breakdown as to what the requirements are for them to become, a 100-ton mate or for pilotage, and how much sea time that they need, and the like, and what shots they have to draw. So if you have any questions regarding that, we can.
I would like to ask the chair if we could add that as an agenda item at our next meeting to discuss. I think there's great interest in that by the part of the traveling public.
Yep, fine.
If I may have some further old business. Also, where are we in terms of developing a training rollout plan for the website mobile app? I know we've pushed off the launch until September, but that doesn't necessarily push off the need to have a training plan.
Yeah, so we've been, Stephen isn't here today. But we've been working on, obviously, trying to identify what are the must-haves that need to be completed. I believe that list was not insurmountable at this point. So there was a little bit of an effort just to go through and find out from each department and what they need to do. And then from that point, we can start to look at what the training needs are, if we have that all squared away, to be moving forward with the training program on that.
Because I also think it would not surprise me and take a look at whether or not it would make sense to hire some outside support at the first month of the rollout, and not necessarily ask our reservations team to be an IT support help desk for the mobile app. They have full-time jobs as it is. And if the chair will oblige me a little further, I have 2 other. Oh,
In that regard, we have made some outreaches to try to identify additional support.
and then 2 other items of old business. Just when can we expect the next strategic plan update on the goals and action items? It's been a while since we've had any report on that. And I'll follow up with my last old business question. And what is the status of the license application from 41 North Offshore for freight service to Martha's Vineyard?
Okay, so the first one regarding the strategic plan. I think it's August, they're going to be doing quarterly updates. So I think August is the next scheduled update from them. At that point, they're still working on the dashboard, getting that set up. So we have that. And then 41 North, I was a participant in the Oak Bluff Select Board meeting 2 weeks ago, two Tuesdays ago. And I have forwarded them the information on what we have. So we'll see. Hopefully, the idea is that we would hopefully be able to be in a position to come back here at the next meetings to address this. I did have a request that was submitted by Tisbury Towing in the meantime to run a trip, and I informed them that they would have to follow the licensing policy. And I have not heard back from them. I did try to reach out to them, but whether
Okay. Sure.
I also, with the chair's permission, I'd like to talk next month I'd like to know where we are on looking at a new reservation system. And that's something that's been discussed, and I know Bob and I think Mark H went out to an industry presentation where you looked at a number of reservation systems. I'd like to know where we are on that. I'd like an IT update on where we are with the IT situation as well. Thank you.
Well, that takes care of that agenda. So
There you go.
anything else? I'd just like to add one thing is this mysterious workshop. I'm still trying to push through. It's in the hands of our general manager and Monica, so I know it'll get done. So, but we intend to move forward on that. Other than that, anything else for new or old business? All right. Yeah. Oh, now.
Thank you. Since we have this rare opportunity to be over here together, sort of like the boat switching on Nantucket, no one knows why they're here, wonder what's going on. I made a few comments at the last meeting that you see in the minutes, and I just wanted to say a couple things. I just want to first say thank you to Mark, all the Marks and the Bob and the Allisons and all the people involved in shuffling these things around. And also this whole Alabama thing is really good. Some of the things that I say that I don't get to talk to you guys that often, but I'm usually not wrong with what I say, just so you know. And these boats are going to be great for us. With all the bad news floating around every day, no good news ever gets said. So I'm here to give that. Those boats are going to help us in a big way. And it's a bridge to get to the next new build process that is going to happen. We're not going to see another island home for billions, millions, whatever the number will end up being. But we're going to see some really great things over time. And it's not going to have an extension cord to Nantucket. That's for sure. So I just want to say that. And I also want to say that what I had to say publicly, giving up the Woods Hole, is true. The vineyard needed the Woods Hole. Once I had the nuts and bolts explained to me why. And I went, okay, that's enough. I get it now. It's not an easy thing to tell the community that we don't need the Woods Hole this summer. No, we do need the Woods Hole this summer, but the vineyard needs it more than we do because of the various reasons, and the trucks and they just don't have the ability to get what they need brought over on a timely basis at every trip. And hopefully soon there'll be some solutions to all the different reasons we have this bizarre, let's just say, interruption of service at any given time. And I think we're going to see some positive things. So I just want to thank everyone, captains, pilots, parking attendants, management, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nat.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim.
I'd like to respond to what Nat just said. He's correct. And Martha's Vineyard, the people in Martha's Vineyard may not get it in its entirety, but the Steamship Authority has gone through what I consider to be an extraordinary time between shortages, between cancellations, lack of staff, and not being able to do what we operate as we normally do. So the change of the boat that was accepted in Nantucket that did benefit the vineyard is not very visible to everyone on the vineyard, but it did, and we appreciate that. And I'd also like to say that, once again, I am concerned, and this is a bit of what Nat just said, we need to do a better job proactively communicating the stuff that we do well to the traveling public, so that the people that work for the Steamship Authority aren't constantly beaten up in person or in the press or on anti-social media for something that someone noted. I think the Steamship Authority needs to do a lot better in a number of ways, does a lot better, does quite well in other ways, but proactively communicating our good stuff, factual stuff that the traveling public needs to know about is important. I'm more concerned about those things than I am about, frankly, about pictures of people riding on our ferries. I'm more concerned that the traveling public gets the good information it needs when it needs it. So thank you, Nat.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Huh? Oh, wait a minute.
If I may.
Excuse me, just a minute.
If I may, I didn't see, the chair of the select board, for Nantucket Brookmore is in, attendance. I didn't see her come in, so I just wanted to recognize her.
Oh, we're sorry. Welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason Graziadei. Nat did tell me this was going to be painful. I think that was his quote. But I just think that, there's a lot of discussion here about other stuff beyond the crewing issues that, while I was sitting here, I got a message that my reservation had been bumped for July, to get my kid off to camp. I had a message from a realtor asking about their clients' reservations that just got bumped. They have coming here for a week. Now they're not going to be able to get their car, so stuff you guys talked about. And I'm just wondering if there's anything that is being done or can be done, or the public can expect with regards to reservations getting bumped, things changing for the summer, or should the public just expect that there's going to be more painful stuff, as Nat alluded to, what Mark Snyder talked about earlier. Seems like that's the biggest issue for Nantucket right now, given the changes that you guys put in place earlier with the staffing. Can anything be done with the crewing? Is there anything the staff can do to alleviate this more than it's already done? Thank you.
All right, so in regards to that, again, this wasn't ideal that we had to make the changes that we did. We are working at getting people trained for position, continuing our efforts there regarding any issues regarding the status of any bargaining. We leave that to the bargaining table. But as I said earlier, we remain hopeful that we'll be able to reach agreement with the union. So Allison and Angela Campbell, our reservation management people, have been working on trying to minimize as much disruption in terms of this changes. The Sankaty does hold a good half dozen or so fewer spaces than the Woods Hole. But again, in terms of it, both routes end up, there is a little pain on both routes at this point. And but we'll see what we can do.
Please go ahead.
in regards to the vehicles that are being displaced,
Into the microphone.
I don't like microphones. In regards to the vehicles that are being displaced right now, what we're doing is we're trying to, basically it's last on, first off, in regards to being bumped. So what we're doing is we're trying to find spaces on other boats within that day period. We are also knocking the allocations down. So if you have a reservation mid-July, August, and you got a phone call saying your boat might not be, you might not be going on your boat, they're going to leave you on that boat, knock down the allocations. And like everybody knows, people cancel, they change their plans. You'll still be on that boat. And if enough cancel, then you're going to be fine. If for some reason it gets to that date and you cannot travel with your time and trip, what we're offering is free driver services. So we will get the car over and then the passengers will go on and upgrade onto the INO to get them onto the island so they can at least start enjoying their vacation. Maybe not right away with their vehicle, but they will enjoy it. Plus, they will supersede standby. So if someone just shows up, like if Janice just shows up and wants to go standby, and you're on a trip and you're unfortunately getting bumped from that trip because of allocations, you supersede her. So you're going to get the priority on standby over everybody else as well. So that's at this point what we're trying. But we also want to inform everybody so they know they're not surprised when they show up and they find out they might not be getting on their boat. We're trying to get everybody as much information as they can so they can plan accordingly as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Miles Reese for Reese Trucking. I can't believe that the people sitting at that table have let this get to this far when 4 years ago, I knew we had people retiring in your company. And Bob, you've just let it run amok to the point of last summer, you didn't run the last fast ferry on account of staffing. You did nothing about it all went along. And now we have another summer with 20% less use on that boat that the ratepayers are paying for. That's just on the fast ferry side. At least last summer, we were able to run freight boats for extra trips, which through your negotiations or your lack of negotiations with the union, we're to a point that this is the worst service we've ever had. This is my opinion. I've been around that dock and worked on that dock with my father's company and now mine since I was 16 years old. That's 60 years. I can't believe you'll let it get to this without more good faith bargaining and putting the contract, the pilots, the captains, where they belong with their rate of pay for where they live in the United States. I think it's a sad state of affairs.
Any other public comment?
There's somebody from the Zoom.
Go ahead.
Michael Klein.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Sort of. We can very faintly hear you, but go ahead.
All right, I'll speak loudly. I have two comments. One, I want to fully support those gentlemen at the table who are calling for more disclosure and information being shared with the traveling public. I think you are doing yourselves a disservice by not communicating well. In addition, I think that overall for the traveling public, I'm an islander. And when I go and travel and I see people who are coming here for the first time, a lot of them have no idea where to go, what to do. I think it's improved somewhat, especially the bus people have been a lot more communicative, but I think you need to take a very hard look at your communication plan for travelers so that people know where the tickets are, where the boats are, where the boats are going. People are still confused. So that's one point. The second point is if somebody could comment on, and maybe this is not an in-season problem, but more of an off-season problem, the issue of boats going off half full when people who qualify for excursion rates can't get on the boats. That's been an issue on what somebody called anti-social media. And it seems to be a problem for those of us who qualify for excursion and can't get a reservation because unless somebody communicates better, it sounds like the Steamship Authority doesn't want to sell an excursion rate, but it would rather let the boat go out with an empty spot versus a full fare rate. So I don't know if anybody can comment on that. That's all.
To a bit about that. Seems to be a slight glitch sometimes with the reservation system when excursions are sold out. Sometimes it doesn't always show the regular space is still available. We are working with IT on trying to get this resolved because it is an inconvenience for people. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So it is something we are aware of and we are trying to resolve that issue.
Thank you.
Mr. Klein, the system does not, as far as space availability goes, does not differentiate between an excursion fare or a standard fare. It just looks at what type of vehicle you're traveling with. So we're not holding space for one category or the other. We have preferred space, which only island residents can get, but that's separate.
And I would like to add that because of the changes that we've had to be making to our schedule, that there's been it's been a rolling period of time in which we've had to freeze the availability of the space in order to be able to move the other the items around. So the inventories around. So depending upon that, if it was during that time period. So
thank you.
Any other questions?
No one online.
No. All right. Still have to go to the camera, right?
yeah, you need to read the statement. The statement going into.
Oh, that's going to executive session. You're going to read those?
No.
Pick you up.
No, we already did.
Okay. All right, so we're going to be going into an executive session. I just have to read something here that just to be legal. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss and approve the minutes of the authorities meeting in executive session on May 28th, 2024, and review the authority's strategies with respect to collective bargaining, negotiation, and contract negotiation with non-union employees, because a public discussion of these matters may have a detrimental effect on the authority's negotiating and bargaining positions. These matters include the anticipated and ongoing negotiation with the Steamship as Teamsters Union Local 59, SEIU, and Local 888, and MEBA District Number 1 PCD, and the authority's employment contract with the general manager, Robert B. Davis. The public disclosure of any more information with respect to these matters will compromise the purpose for which the executive session is called. After the conclusion of the executive session, we will not, I repeat, not come back into the public. May I receive a motion to go into executive session? Motion is made. Is there a second? Pick second. I would ask for a roll call vote. So,
Jeffrey,
Malcolm.
Jones, it's unanimous. And I'm going to ask one thing, if it may not be necessary, but we will only allow okay. That'll be fine, Richard. Thank you for coming.